We're going to go through today's tech talk, and we're going to look at what is SITEOPS, how does it fit into your workflow. Again, I see a number of people in here that have seen SITEOPS before, and I see a lot of people who haven't. So I want to make sure and cover some basics. Then I'm going to go into a case study about the world's largest Greek yogurt plant, Chobani, how this was used to do their project. Then we're going to go in and actually look at SITEOPS and how it works and how it does everything that you would need. So SITEOPS conceptual workflow. SITEOPS is basically a tool that's going to help you do conceptual design and go from project location out to conceptual design documents. Now what it's not going to do is go in and do your plan production. SITEOPS does not do that. It's not going to go in and do profile sheets. It's not going to do detail sheets. What it's going to do is help you look at options for a project and get it done as fast as possible to get to that point. And when we look at the case study, you'll understand this. So for a typical project, whether it's a plant, it's a McDonald's on the corner, it's a school, it's a highway, it doesn't matter. We have to have a project location. We have to acquire some data, create a site plan, a grading plan, stormwater, and we need to do the site plan, the grading plan, the stormwater to get a budget to look at feasibility. Okay? Then we want to get comments. Once we get comments, then we can start going back through and modifying different pieces of it to come up with a design and a budget that makes everybody happy. And then once we get some approval, then we can go forward into plan production. Now what drives us all sort of crazy in this process is how do we do this quickly? How do we make it faster? We're going to do this through SITEOPS. SITEOPS is going to help you do conceptual designs on the fly. And you're going to see that as we go through the exercises. By the click of a button, I'm going to generate grading and stormwater designs. What it's really going to help me do is identify the most cost-effective design, because that's ultimately what our clients want. They want a good design, and they want to get it economically. And the other thing it helps do is look at upfront. Imagine value engineering, things of options and alternatives that a lot of times we look at in the back half of a project when we really get time as designers to go through and say, maybe if I'd have done it this way or I'd done this one something a little better, it would come out with a better result. We're going to look at those options up front. Because of the speed, we're going to have time to. And the biggest thing SITEOPS is going to bring to your workflow, again, is that ability to do revisions over and over again and do them very easily. So let's look at the world's largest yogurt production plant. This was done by Manhart Consulting, and it was done for Chobani. And here's some facts about, just really quick about this, because this was a fairly massive undertaking for a yogurt factory. First off, it's worth $450 million. That's a pretty big amount of money. And it was in Twin Falls, Idaho. It was on 200 acres, and they needed just under 1 million square feet for the building pad. But there was another problem that they had. They had to do this. They had to design it, build it, and get it ready to open in under a year. So they did this using SITEOPS. SITEOPS was allowed Manhart to go through and move things around, move parking lots, delivery areas, materials, office buildings, ponds, all kinds of different scenarios on this design to try to get to the most effective one. And they were able to do this. Now we're using SITEOPS, and when we go through actually looking at SITEOPS, you're going to see how that mindset and how that was done, and I'm going to come up with a fictitious site for us to play around with. But imagine, for the ones of you who have done the design, over on the right-hand side, 326 days was their delivery date. That's unheard of for almost any project. Any commercial plant, large project, the idea of building it in under a year and being operational is outstanding. What SITEOPS did for this project, and then it moved things around. It did the least amount of grading. Think about this. SITEOPS' goal is to save you or the client money. One of the ways it's going to save money is going to look at moving the least amount of dirt possible. Because the more dirt we move, typically the more the cost of the project goes up. So if I'm moving dirt less, that also means I'm not working as long. It's not taking me so much more time to create the pad, to be able to put things on. Do we have walls? Do we not? Again, all these kind of things are being looked at within SITEOPS. So one of the benefits that a lot of our SITEOPS users' clients are having is not always that the designer, did it faster. I did it more economical, but I allowed to get the results faster. So we're creating things and building it and putting it up. Think about a plant. A plant is being built as a function for something. It's either to manufacture something. It could be wastewater treatment. It can be a variety of different things that the user's ultimate goal, your client, your users, your clients, their goal is to have this in operation because that's how they make money or meet the needs of a community. That's the goal. The sooner they get that up and going, the better it is for everyone. So they're looking for engineers, architects, land planners, designers that can give that not just good design, but a speedy design. That's what they're looking for. So again, I love this thing from Fred Thett, who was the director of engineering at Manhart. He's used SITEOPS for years. This is just one of their projects, but they've done great work around with it. Without the power of SITEOPS, the critical site planning decision never could have been made in such an accelerated pace. And that's the big key. Imagine getting people together, communicating. One of the hardest things we have to do in design nowadays is communicate. How do I communicate my design to the owner, to the municipality, to the contractor? How then they communicate their revision request back to me? And did I hear it correctly? And if I make a revision, am I getting that done the right way? And if not, how long do I have to go back again, re-listen to them, and remake another design? Well, SITEOPS, you could even sit in the room and do that all together. So here's a little screenshot. This was actually the plant inside of SITEOPS. Grading, got different parking lots and driveways, and looks like distribution area in the rear, and you can see it graded out, graded some flat areas. We're going to have expansion later on. So again, a lot of things that they took into consideration as part of this project. And another quote, the mission of delivering the project within unprecedented time frame requested by the client would have been virtually impossible without utilizing SITEOPS. And I put that up there because out of that press release, there's a press release out there if you want to find it. It talks in a lot more detail about Manhart and how they achieved this design. Imagine this. Again, anybody on here that has done plans before is going to look at these numbers and be like, wow. They started the design on November of 2011. The groundbreaking was on December 17th. Think about that. Just right at about a month. Most of us barely get plans done in a month. Most of us barely get the clients to agree what to do within a month or 2 months. Here was something done inside of a month, but because they were able to take that process really quick and look through options and iterations, they were able to come up with a design that everybody liked, that they then pushed to plan production, created the plans, got the facility going, and on December the 19th, they opened it up. So now on your end, the question is going to be, how do we get to this point? Okay, we're going to use SITEOPS to do this. And SITEOPS is going to come in and give you a lot of power. And then I'm also going to go out to LumenRT. I threw a little visual up on the screen. This visual comes from LumenRT. It's a fantastic visualization tool that Bentley has. Really neat, and we'll look at it. But the hardest part of any of the visualizations that help to get our clients to understand what we're doing is creating the model that goes inside of it. So SITEOPS is not just going to help you do the 2D, the quick layout, some grading. It's also going to start helping make part of the model. So let's get into SITEOPS and let's start looking at it. SITEOPS is a little different than a lot of tools. It is partially web-based. You're going to log in through the internet. So I'm just going to log into my system, and we're going to walk through a project just as if we were meeting with the client and they were giving us some ideas of what they want to do. So once you go into SITEOPS, it's all about what data you have. You either have some or you don't. If you have point files, drawing files, DGNs, DWGs, GIS, whatever you got that's accurate, I tell users by all means, please use the most accurate data you got. That's going to make life simpler for you. But what we found from a lot of our users, they didn't have anything at all. They were out here just trying to find something to start with. So we created a thing called geolocate. This is going to allow me to go in, take a project. I just gave it a name. Now you can do projects in SITEOPS, imperial or metric. We're going to do this in the US, so we're going to do it in imperial. So let's go to import. I'm going to go to, again, files. You can import your own, just simple file importer. But let's go to geolocate. We're going to go somewhere in Kansas City. We're going to North Corrington Avenue in Kansas I can spell today. Kansas City, Missouri. There we go. Let's open this up. And the client told me it's at the dead end of this roadway. So there's a couple roadways in this area. And just because I just sort of looked around for a site to play with in this project, we want to see one right here. And the reason I'm picking this project is maybe the client, as part of the deliverable, wants a rail. We need a little spur coming in for deliveries and then also for distribution. I can go over to the right in the bottom and actually see we have a nice little field. We want to come in and we want to use this area. So do select location. It's going to put the box on state plane coordinates for that region, which again allows me to start adding data. So for example, if I've already done SITEOPS and you went out and got a context capture model or they did a field topo, you can bring that in and it'll drop right into place. So let's grab some USGS topo. We give you the ability to come in from a couple different sources and get a model started. I also want to come in, do some Esri imagery. You know, all this comes with SITEOPS. I can go in real quick and see where are we wanting to start to work. And one thing I like about the Esri imagery, if you zoom in close, it'll give you a little bit higher definition image. It makes life really nice when you're trying to see what exactly is happening around your project. So let's just do a quick little clip. I'm going to turn off the Esri so it don't change whenever we move around. So now it's all about the client's desires. This client's wanting to put some kind of factory. Again, this could be a wastewater treatment plant. It could be anything you want. It's up to what the client needs and what you're going to design. This one's pretty easy. We're going to do a basic plant. We need about 500,000 square feet of building pad for this plant. We're going to need a distribution because we're making something and we got to take it, you got to deliver it. And then we need office buildings for research, HR, just a normal operations. So let's identify the actual working area. Across the top, there's some tabs. First one's going to be, I'm going to stay mostly in, it's called layout. This is the power of SITEOPS. We're going to see a lot of automation type tools. And the first one I'm going to do is really simple. It's not a lot of automation. It's called boundary. Again, if I do have something such as meets and bounds, boundary survey, GIS data, get that from whatever information you have. Or could be they just told me between the railroad tracks up to the bottom end of the building where the cul-de-sac is and along the highway, that's our property boundary. And we can see pretty well by definition of tree lines, that's the rough property boundary. So let's go in and start working. So we need to place some buildings. Again, the one thing SITEOPS doesn't do, this is something that you're going to see a lot of people go, wow, SITEOPS looks really easy and it's really cool. And I'm going to agree with you. I've been with SITEOPS for a long time and I absolutely love this software. But the one thing it doesn't do, it doesn't replace your experience. And that's what the client's really paying for, right? You're doing things like plants and complex projects. They understand you know what you're doing. So therefore, we want to take what's basically between our ears and our brain and we want to show it to the screen. So we're going to have to come in and start putting components and placing them. So for example, I know we got 3 buildings that we roughly need. We need an office building. So let's just type B for building. And I want this one to be roughly 200 by 400. And let's take the image down just a little bit. And I'm going to move it over to the side for now. Because again, not sure where we're going to place it. So we need a distribution. They said they need roughly 200,000 square feet. Let's do B for building. And let's just start with a 200 by 1,000. That's 200,000 square feet. That's more of how a distribution type facility would look. And we're going to come in and do a plant. Now they want 500,000 square feet. We're going to start with a rough shape, maybe 500 by 1,000. They can direct us more into what they desire, but a lot of times if you got a tight site, they may be looking to you to figure out how big the footprint is. Does it need to be a couple different footprints because of topography differences, things like that? Again, that goes back to your experience. So we have basically 3 buildings. Now the rest of the site, think about drawing parking lots and roadways and the rail, and I want to control grading in a couple areas. All this takes time, and it takes a lot of time in the traditional CAD softwares that we use. We're going to now do it faster, and then that way we can have more time to spend at moving buildings and looking at different issues. Maybe they say potentially we'd like to have an expansion, so how do we expand? You know, how do I keep an area for potential expansion? How would I route roadways to it? How would I get pedestrian walking? Again, how do we start making all this site work? All right, so we go in again. You got 3 buildings. Now, the one thing you're going to do inside of SITEOPS is we're going to work in a 3D model, even though we're going to keep it as simple as a 2D model. So if I come in and look, we got a little bit of a low area for this plateau type flat area. We got a little hill over here to the right, so we definitely can see where we're going to get some dirt, assuming that it's good. You can put in your geotech information, so if this was bad soil, rock, something like that, SITEOPS can handle that. So let's just do something really quick just for what we're doing. Well, if I go out and look, bring my Esri image back up, we can see that the rail is out on this outer edge. So I'm going to need to pull a spur up through the project through here. And so let's just set a spur first. And the one thing I probably don't want to do, again, back to my design, I want to try to keep it off the top of this hill because I can't go straight up. So I'm going to have to try to bring a spur in, and we're just going to run it across the edge. Now, to do a spur, everybody's going, well, I didn't know SITEOPS did rail. Okay. In a way, we don't. And in a way, we do. One thing you're going to do with SITEOPS is learn to think out of the box. Think about a roadway. What's the real difference between a railway and a roadway? Nothing really, right? It's just the way that it's designed and the way that it's built. And what I mean by is it's still a cross section. If I come over to the right and say I want to take this roadway and I want to come in, and however I define this template is what's going to make it a rail line. So I can come in and say it has curb. No, rails don't have curb. Maybe it's more about 6 feet wide at the top, 6 feet wide. And do we have shoulders? Yeah, maybe more of like a 4-foot shoulder. Again, and what are the slopes? In case 8%, we'll say fine. How are we going to deal with ditching if we need to do that? And then just hit apply. And in the upper right hand corner is a little button called layout. As soon as I click that, I'm going to zoom in. We're going to add the outside edge of that section. Now also I'm going to come in and change the radius points. Let's come in, make some fairly big radius points. Along the bottom, let's say, we'll just do 500 for now. So we got some nice big radius. Then I'm going to go back to the path to the side, and I'm going to go down to the right, and I'm going to do one other quick little thing. I'm going to tell it is not flexible. In other words, it needs to hold a crown. And let's make this, and I could do an alternative pavement for its own cost. In this case, I'm just going to say it's gravel. It's not asphalt. So at this point, I have my spur line. Now, there also is one little thing here. I just noticed we have the endpoints. So we want to make sure there is no returns because this, again, is not a roadway. So let's start thinking about how we want to put the pieces of this project together. So let's come in and let's rotate this building long ways. Let's see if we can fit it in. And I can, but if you notice, it's going to be a little tight because I've still got to get some roadways around to the back. Again, thinking about maybe future expansion to the rear. What are we going to do? Again, it all goes back to that skill set I talk about, which is what we have. Let's just go in and say, you know what, I'm going to move it to the front a little bit more. Can I get a little more area there, or do I need to move the roadway or the spur line? Let's come in and let's move our distribution center. Let's line it up a little better, and let's just go in, do something really simple to start with, and we're going to put the office building off to the side, and let's come in and do some parking. We got to have employees. This side's a building, we're going to have a lot of employees, and we'll probably have some more parking in the back. So let's go to one of our other automated tools, which is in the upper left. This is parking. So I'm just going to come make this go by a little faster by just staying parallel to everything, and just make it 90s. We'll do something really simple. There's my parking lot. Now, if I don't like something, again, this is where we're going to start moving and editing and changing. So if I don't like the way my design is coming out, again, by all means, change it. I can come in and say, well, I want a road that really sort of more goes to the back. Maybe we're going to just come in with a simple drive. Let's do this. Let's do a car drive. I'm going to connect it right where the bulb would start. We're going to come in. We're going to do a nice car drive. Same thing as before. I can go to edit section. Maybe we're going to make this nice and wide. We're going to do 20 feet because we're going to have some kind of trucks coming in and out. They won't go into the parking lot, but they'll split off as we go. Let's not make this slope to one side. Again, we'll make it more like a traditional road with a crown, and then hit apply. And if you notice, my road automatically changed. And let's deliver a road to the rear for now. And so if I come in and just tie off one road to another, I can just come tie one into the other roadway, and we'll just let it go up to the back and park it. Put some radiuses on there. You know, always got to make the fire marshal happy. And just for some simple truck movement, let's raise it to 250. So you can see I can just simply change things, and they'll automatically update. Let's clean this intersection. Because what we're trying to do really quick is we're trying to get to a design that can be used. So let's make this 50%. And what I mean used is not just 2D, not just does it look a certain way. Is it the way I want it? From that standpoint, is it economical? Again, no design is right until it's economical. Let's do something a little creative. Let's do some angled parking. I don't don't know, let's make the building a little bigger. Maybe they decide, we need a bigger building. Let's come in and just for playing around, let's make this curved angle parking. Again, all the creativity is there in the tool sets. If you need it, all you have to do is actually just tell SITEOPS I want to use it. We'll do something creative. Let's go in and drop even a couple bay points. Let's say I want 20-foot bay point there, so I can put some landscaping. Let's put one down here. Again, you can just get creative as you want, make things happen, work, keep it all nice, real simple. Okay, let's go to the backside. Again, may not have so much parking. We'll just leave parking off for now. And I want to use something called other area. When you become a SITEOPS user, this is something you're absolutely going to love. This is anything in the world your heart makes it. I've seen it from a nuclear reactor pad to the dumpster at a McDonald's. It doesn't matter. It's whatever you want to. It could be a pit if I can give it a depth. Maybe I'll show you a little bit of that in the corner. We'll have some kind of, maybe depending on what they're doing, they have to have a hazardous waste pit. Let's put that in here in just a second. But let's say I want, let's go with a 2% slope, not 12, 2%. We want it to be heavy concrete. I want to come in, I want to attach my drive to it. And you can see automatically if I do that, I'm into the building. We need to come and probably revise this design a little bit. There we go. Let's get some great big old radiuses just so we can get in and out really easy. And we want to come in and do that pit I was talking about. Let's come over in the corner. Maybe we need to have a little emergency pit, maybe 100 by roughly 200. We'll just freehand that. All right, so what I'm going to do to this one, I'm going to tell it it's got a 0 bottom. It's going to still be made out of, let's still do heavy concrete. But what I'm going to tell the sides of it is, I need you to go down 4 feet. So I'm going to tell it to go, let's go 6. Again, you can make it whatever you want. And the wall cost will be in the site cost of the project. All right, so let's just say we're going through our project, everything's going good, and the developer goes, yes. What does it cost, right? That's still the ultimate thing. What does it cost? To do that, I'm going to hit the grading button. Once I hit the grading button, SITEOPS is going to start looking at what is the cheapest way to build the site. And if you look in the lower right-hand corner, it's looking at cut, fill, import, export, retaining walls. But the one thing you'll notice, it's a little slow because of being an online presentation. The cut and fill numbers are moving a little slow, but they are moving. SITEOPS is going through thousands of iterations on what's the best way to grade the site to be the most economical. Red is cut, blue is fill, yellow means little to no elevation change. So as we can see this, but if I turn it back on, let's look at some of the contours. We're starting to slope the way I want, but we do have one big area. I do want to highlight another one. See the little dip in the back? There's my pit. If I come in and turn off the contours so we can see a little better, you can actually see the tan, which is the wall. But I'm having an issue between these two buildings. I cannot have a dock area for distribution and manufacturing that far apart. So how do I control that? Again, SITEOPS gives me all the tools to start looking at any issues. So let's turn off the proposed grade. Let's go in, take that other area, just like I showed you a second ago, and let's clean this up. And then we can go out and do a quick little visual of this project. We can come in, let's just close this off. Go here to the right. I want this to be a, let's just say a maximum of 1%. Again, let's go with concrete. And what I want to do is I'm going to do something called a cut area. I want one thing to match another. I want this to tie in right off to the side of the roadway. So now it matches exactly. So if that road was really windy and irregular, you can take care of it, not a problem. So let's come in, let's do one on the side of the building. Let's just say for this one, I'm not going to give it any material. Again, you don't have to give it a material. It may just be I want to control grading in general. So let's close that path. Let's just tell it I want it about 5%. Leave it whatever material I want it. Let's do a cut again. Let's cut this one by that. Let's go make sure all my sides are, get rid of the curb. Let's grade this again. Layout and grade. So we were around 30-some thousand yards of dirt movement. We're now around 54, which should be expected because we're doing a lot more cut. We're coming in, and if you see now the contour lines in the area that I want it, they're not as drastic. But one more quick thing before we go into actual looking at the 3D. You see the spur line, see how the contours are going? That's not acceptable, right? So again, what I'm into now is even though you can quickly draw things, you do have control. Because one thing you're going to definitely need in plants is control. Do I have buildings with relationships to each other? In this case, This is what SITEOPS is the cheapest way to build the road. We don't want that. So I'm going to come in, put a 1500K value, and tell it, give me something that looks a little better that meets requirements. So it comes in, it looks at that. How can I then optimize that roadway? And I can add points, take points away, modify that, hit my layout. Let's grade it. It's going to take that and design there. It's going to apply it. Now we're at about 150,000 yards of dirt movement. But it should be, because we're bringing in a rail line, and the rail line can only have so much movement. And once we bring that in, now you're going to see a big difference in my grading. You're going to see a big difference in cost. And again, the client, they'll usually tell you the cost is what it is. What they don't want to do is find out the final cost 2, 3 months from now, 4 months from now. They want to know what it is today. If it's 2.9 million and we got to move 150,000 yards of cut and fill, then so be it. That's what it is. We just need to know that. All right, so how do we also convey this design? Now, there's a number of different ways. For this one, I'm going to come in really simple, and we're going to take these buildings, and I'm going to put a height to them. Let's just generically do 40 across the whole, all these buildings. And I also want to do something that SITEOPS does. It works with LumenRT. It also works with SketchUp and a lot of other different 3D tools. But one of the things we created, and I'm just going to do one really quick so you can see it, is we have the ability to import LumenRT items, and you can do SketchUp as well. You can bring in their blocks. So if I had for some reason, if I had somebody doing a SketchUp, a Revit, an ABD building, bring that in as a collada file. I can sit over top of this and make it look like a real warehouse, make it look like a real manufacturing facility. But what I'm going to do is go into blocks. Part of SITEOPS, we preload you some things up. So let's just come in and we'll grab a Honda Civic. And what I'm going to tell it is, on this area, I want it to be a block. So I can add blocks on paths, closed areas, and SITEOPS will know, for example, this is a parking, and I want to tell it I want 30% coverage of this car. And at that point, all I need to do is go back to Edit, Assign Block, and tell it what I want to assign. And then oops, sorry about that. Undo, there we go. There, picked on the wrong thing. So now let's grade. So think about, as you change in the model and you're constantly moving and updating and doing different things, those pieces will move with the model. So when you're in 3D, you don't have to worry about if somebody comes up and says, hey, that's fine, but we don't need that much parking. Let's take it down. All those bits and pieces, they move, they update, they revise themselves. And then all I got to do is regrade to reset them. And then we'll export the civil through LumenRT. This is also the point where if you're happy with your design, you would export it to, go up to some of the export buttons. We will export it to your favorite Bentley products. You can deal with other tools like again, Trimble, SketchUp, 12D, Google Earth, depending on what you have, where you are in the world. Everybody uses a little bit different software. So let's just export this to LumenRT, and I'm going to let it run in the background. And we'll see what it looks like. In the meantime, I'm going to open up a couple ones that I've had already done. So this is a project. This is about, I think I spent about 3 hours on this. This was a couple years back. This was an auto manufacturer. And what we did is, in this one, you can actually see there are different colored buildings to represent different things. Orange is the office administration. The green was research development. Yellow was maintenance. Part of distribution was the dark blue, and the manufacturing facility was the lighter blue. And in the front is all the employee parking. Now, one thing LumenRT did, and this is the beauty, is we put all these models in SITEOPS, so they move and they change. But when I zoom in, I can actually turn on a quality star and actually have trees moving. I can set people to walk. I think there's actually some walkers in the front of this project. Again, you can do a lot of different things with the models to come up and really create high-end visuals to get people to understand, because they're more likely to understand this than they will a 2D line drawing. We have a spur line coming into the back. This is all the car area for all the cars waiting to hit a rail to get out of this facility. Now, another one we did there is still loading the model. Take just a moment. This is one that y'all saw in that little image y'all saw that came out as part of the invitation. This is in Australia. As you can see, it's a plant facility where they're manufacturing and processing materials. Again, SITEOPS did not come up with the tanks you see and the piping. The buildings, they actually are from SketchUp. The trucks, some of them from LumenRT, the people LumenRT. The piping and all this came from another software, similar to AutoPipe and the MicroStation, things like that. And then once I get them into LumenRT, I can assign a material type so that they actually look like they're stainless. Again, this is the beauty. This is a lot easier to sell. And I can come in and the client wants to know what it looks like at certain times of the year. I can change the date. So, for example, my trees, the leaves go dead. How my buffering look along the edge? So, do I need to have enough evergreens versus something else? Is it overcast and cloudy? And again, maybe there's an issue that we need light for certain times of the day, for energy analysis, things like all kind of things that we can do to start giving a visual of what it is we're designing. And that's how we help sell the client. And this is the kind of things that were done, for example, like from Manhart. How do we come out and take our design, quickly get something that's working, get something that people can see, they can make evaluations, they can come up and say, yes, this is exactly what I want. No, this is nothing like what I want. So let's just let this come into LumenRT. And again, remember, you can ask questions. There are a little panel off to the side. And let's zoom in real quick. And I'm just going to roll in. Let's open this up just a little bit bigger. Turn this down. There we go. Open this up. And I could come in and manually place things in here now if I wanted to. So as we zoom in, you're going to see the cars. I can change material. Maybe I want my asphalt a little darker. Now it's all back to what I want. I can quickly set some of this up, save it as my favorites and things like that. Grass, I can come in and do grass. If I hadn't placed buildings, I could. And imagine if you did a nice zoomed in shot, it may be a little hard to see, but see if we can get it to happen. You'll actually see the grass moving. Oh, it helps if I put it actually up to quality. There we go. You can actually see the grass swaying. So again, makes it really simple to come in, create those really high-end visuals, and makes it really simple to show the site. And again, this is what we're doing. This is what it's all about. The design that we're doing. So let's jump back out. So that's.
Hey, Dave, I got a question for you here.
Yeah, go right ahead.
We got a user that's asking, what was the reason for the area around the area that you used for the LumenRT block around the parking area?
For around the parking area. Let me jump back into that. Okay, what this does is this is just an area that assigns where to put those cars. So for example, if I didn't want the whole parking lot coverage, I can move this. It gives the user the ability to control, because maybe I want a whole bunch of one car, but only little pocket areas of another. It could be something like this. Let's come in and let's offset this. We'll just bring it over a little bit more. Maybe in this case, instead of a car, I want it to be an island, and I'm going to bring in a tree. Let's bring in a Japanese maple. Now, everywhere that there's an island that can fit a tree, it will come in, and let's edit, assign, pick the object I want to go to, pick it what. And again, just like the other part, if I change the design, let's get the layout solver going. There we go. If I change the design, the trees and everything will readjust with that as well. So again, the area around the outside is not so much an area, it's just more of a path. The same as if I wanted to come in and draw a single one-line path. And this one may just be around the outer edge for trees. Again, it can be whatever you want it to. This one, I'm just going to say I want landscaping around the outer edge. And it knows it's not close, so therefore it knows it's not giving me the parking or the island. I just want a tree every 75 feet, and let's just use the one we used before. Edit, assign, and I just want that tree on it. And if I change the line, let's go back out a little bit. If I change that location, so will that line. But also if I put a cost to that, inside SITEOPS, I could have put a cost to that tree. And so if that tree was $350 everywhere I put the tree, and if I moved and changed it, which made them come or go, it actually will affect the budget. Because the one thing SITEOPS will deliver you in the back end is a budget. And it's a fairly detailed budget considering that it's in conceptual phase. We're going to know how are we going to deal with topsoil. Do we need to import, export? We're probably not going to export. We're going to figure out how to use it on site. We're going to look at fine grading, seeding, erosion control, your asphalt curb, gutter, sidewalks. Again, all that info. We hadn't done stormwater. Again, you can go on YouTube and see a lot more detail into that. It's very simple. And if I had any miscellaneous costs, for example, if I'd have told the trees they were $300 a piece, it would have counted them up and put so many trees at this dollar amount per, and here's an overall cost. Again, so it's ultimately about getting to a budget. but we got to have the design. We got to have buy-in. And again, buy-in's not always just a 2D design and a budget. It's also 3D as well.
Hey, Dave, we've got another question for you here. One of the attendees is asking, can you accept a point cloud generated by a drone yet?
No, you cannot, and mainly that's because those need to be processed. So we can, and they can be processed many different ways, by many different softwares. So you need to go in and process that data, and once you process the data and create a surface from it, then yes, you can import that surface into SITEOPS, but it does need to be processed in some other software. So I think we're getting a good idea of how SITEOPS is used inside of a plant. Again, it's one of the things that I want to show people, that it's about the site. It's not going to tell you what's in the building. It's not going to tell you how to pipe from one building to the next. But the relationship you can set between multiple buildings, multiple items, is what needs to be looked at. We've had people do wastewater treatment plants where simply lowering and raising holding tanks, looking at pressure heads on these huge systems for pumps, can save me money on pump costs, because I don't have to overcome such a head because of elevation change, that it may be worth spending $20,000 in additional grading versus $100,000 in upsizing pumps. You can run those scenarios. Again, we don't typically do that kind of work as designers, not because we don't want to, not because we don't know how. It's more because we just don't have time to. And that's what
Hey,
we
David,
sign off. And the whole thing is how to deliver that time. Yes, Gerald.
got another question for you here. Can the unit cost be changed and saved based upon project location?
Most definitely. Inside SITEOPS, you can pretty much customize everything. So if I want to come in and under preference, there's a default area. This is where you would come in and change things such as what are my layout requirements, my parking spaces in my driveway and my roadways, what are my grading constraints, what are my stormwater, and moreover, what is the unit cost. And you can change these and save them based upon client needs, location. You can see I have a few saved in. I've done a lot of work with Walmart in the past, different parts of the country. I'm out of Charlotte, so of course I have my Charlotte cost saved. And you can come in, localize these to what you need, and save them. The next time you start a project, you just grab that information and you're done. But even the first time you do this, it only takes a few minutes to set it up.
All right, got another question here for you, David. How long does it take to learn SITEOPS and become a good user?
Okay. SITEOPS is like any tool. This is what I tell everybody. You got to use it. Training's only 3 days long. It doesn't take a lot to get the idea of how to use SITEOPS to begin, because you already know how to design. So a lot of times when you're learning CAD softwares when we're younger and earlier in our careers, a lot of times we're still trying to learn how to design as well as draw. SITEOPS is all about automation and letting the software help you do things. The one thing about it, though, you need to use it like any software. If you come to training, do 1 or 2 projects, and don't pick it up for 6 months, you may forget a few things. So again, it just takes usage. But the biggest thing, again, to understand, it does not do everything. It is not here to do every little detail like you would do in a construction set. If I look at all these islands on this parking lot, for example, and there's one that I don't like, SITEOPS is not where you fix it. You export out the drawing file, you go into your CAD tool as part of plan production, and you fix it. I don't like if I come up here and said, all right, on this one island, I don't like the radius return there. I want to change it. This is not the place, because the client is not going to walk from this job because that radius is not right. They're going to walk because the budget numbers or the buildings don't fit, or it's just not the right project for the location. That's what they need to identify. So one of the biggest things about being a user is using the software and understanding to be a good user. Even though I'm guilty of this, I want it to do everything. It just doesn't.
All right, got another question for you here, David. What is the content that exports to GeoPack or inroads, horizontal and vertical alignments as a question, intersection, terrain, or just line work?
For now, it's just doing line work. We're working to make the export a lot more robust for the microstation-based products. So again, right now it's more of the line work, the surface, some meshes, some things like that, and that's what it's exporting at this point. If you are an Autodesk user, it exports a little bit more. Just from our past history, we've had a lot of Autodesk users, so therefore you'll get a little bit more output in a DWG file.
All right, got another question for you here. So this is SITEOPS a quick method to do schematic design portion of a civil project?
That is exactly right. This is the best way to put it. This is the schematic design for the civil portion. Again, if I'm doing the mechanical, which is all the piping, the manufacturing part of it, this in the building. So if I'm worrying about what the office building looks like and where's the doors and all this, this is not the software. You can bring that in once that model is made, so you can create the visualization. But again, yeah, you're exactly right. This is here to do the civil site portion of a project, and again, hopefully make you do a lot faster, so we can be a little more involved in that upfront part of the project, so we're not always behind trying to help fix any issues.
All right, got another question for you here. Where is the SITEOPS app headed in the near future? Examples, what types of upgrades or advancements can we expect?
Okay, just to give you a little bit under the hood, can't give everything away. One thing is some of the users have seen the way I did that road profile, for example, when I went in and did a profile and worked on it and was able to control it. We are going to keep giving you tools to do such things as that. We're really more about how do we control the model. I'll give you a little idea of one. Let's say the parking lot, for example. It's going to be sloping in a certain direction. Let's turn on the proposed contours. We can see that it looks like it's sloping across the site, and then looks like roughly east to west direction, northeast, southwest. Let's say I wanted it to go to a low point. Right now, SITEOPS would have a little bit of an issue controlling it to get to this point. Not that it can't be done, but it's a little more manual. What we want to do is similar to the way you saw the road profile. You can click the outer edge of a parking lot, for example, see that in the profile, and start moving it down and making it where I could come in and control exactly how it drains. Come in and grab some of these islands and do the exact same thing. I can start manipulating individual areas and objects inside of SITEOPS to start making that design a little more accurate. Again, we're still in the conceptual phase, but we want to give the users the ability to be a little more detailed as we keep moving along in the project, and not always just sort of go where the first 30%. We need to get more to 50 or 60, because at 50 and 60% of documents, we're still making a lot of changes sometimes, and we want the SITEOPS users to still have that ability to do some modeling and quick automation inside of that phase.
All right, got a little bit of a lengthy question here, but I think it's pertinent to the software. But one of the biggest problems one of our participants has is in their area that steep slopes, and sometimes the site, no matter what will have a lot of cut or a lot of fill. Without making costs equal, I feel I'm always fighting grading and to not make giant holes or giant mountains of soil in areas.
Oh.
I can set up to help them with that.
Okay, perfect. All right. So here's what's happening. Plain and simple. SITEOPS is told to ultimately give you the cheapest cost. So for example, if I started grading this site and I had a lot of export, it's going to start looking on site, where do I put that export? So let's see if I'm going to try to generate something. Let's go in, let's do a quick info, and let's see what the existing is on this building. About 732. Let's crank this down to 700 for a maximum elevation. I'm going to try to see if I can generate this problem. All right. If I went too far down, but we're going to try. All right, let it keep going for a minute. We got a lot of cut. Actually, I went too far down. Let's try this one more time. So what happens is SITEOPS is looking on the site, where can I put this dirt? Because it's cheaper to leave it on site. So what we're going to have to do is tell SITEOPS, because I put it into this condition, you're not allowed to bury or move dirt. So there's a couple different ways we can do this. I can actually tell SITEOPS to export this, because we have a desired export. I can come up and say, hey, I got a couple 100,000 yards. I'm going to take off site because it doesn't work. Or a desired import, because again, I don't want to import dirt. Or we're going to have to import dirt to make it work, because I cannot go over to these areas. So to control some of this, let's turn on the contours. Here's you see that nice big mound of dirt going right there where it's cutting out and it's filling. Okay. How do I control that? Well, again, SITEOPS doesn't know that it can't do that. I've got to go in as a user and say, all right, let's take this other area I talked about. Remember I said it's the one that everybody's going to love. I'm going to go in and I'm going to tell this other area. Ooh, let's back this up. And again, if I'm doing it a little more exact, I'd cut it with the cut tool to match everything. But right now, I'm just sort of throwing this in sort of quick. I'd come out. Let's identify an area. And I got one of two things I can do. I can tell SITEOPS this is existing, and it doesn't do any cut at all. Or I can come in and maybe just tell it, let's do a 10% grade. Or I can use grading constraint slopes if I want to actually do some grading out there, but not a lot. And then once we go out into this area, it's still, this, for example, I'm still allowing it to fill. It's just not making these crazy hills as we're going forward. It's more of a control fill. And now you see it's actually going out. but it's going to cost more money because I'm opening the site up more. So again, it depends on what you're looking for. So if I went in and said, let's do a desired go to project defaults. So again, there's a lot of different ways depending on how you want to handle this excess dirt. So let's do a turn off my caps. There we go. Grading, desired, export. Let's just put in, oh no, let's put in 300,000 yards. Enter. And let's just save it and let's grade it again. So again, a number of different ways to help with that. Again, just depending on what is the ultimate goal that you're working on this project. Again, we're still going to get some. Looks like we're still getting some because I'm just digging too deep. And the beauty is, actually, SITEOPS is going to tell me if I turn on my problem layer, yeah, this site ain't even going to come close to working. We're still 20-some feet off. So again, SITEOPS can even tell me when I've lost my mind and I'm trying to go too aggressive. But that's how you would do it. You'd either control it by existing areas, grading slopes, or desired import and desired export, depending on whether it's a need of dirt or too much. And again, definitely, if there's questions like that, this is one of the things that SITEOPS users like is we love to talk to the users. So from a support side, Gerald, who's on here as well, Chris Croucher, myself, if you have an issue and you aren't getting the answers, we always tell everybody contact us. We're going to take care of you because sometimes, again, we know we're different. We're a little more automated, hands-on. So therefore, there are times that we need to come in and work with the user, almost like a little supplemental training, just to get you up to speed.
All right, got another question for you here, David. Do groups of trees in geo cause incorrect topo sometimes?
Again, that's going to depend on where you get it from. If you're bringing in topography into SITEOPS, and let's just say somebody went out and did a context capture. Context capture, ones you might not know, is one of the droning processing tools that they have that will come in and look at your photography and create a 3D model. Now, if you do not go in to, I believe it's Descartes that helps edit that surface out, or edit the surface and has those trees, and you bring that model into SITEOPS, it's going to look at the tree and say, hey, well, I got a big mound of dirt right in the middle of my project because it doesn't understand that surface is trees. So what I'm really getting around to, it's all about how is the data cleaned up before you bring it into SITEOPS. SITEOPS is not necessarily an area you want to clean data. You want to use the tools. If I'm getting topography from a surveyor, they got all the tools and they should be able to clean it up really quick for you. Same as if I'm getting context capture. Whoever's doing that work has the ability to quickly clean it up and make sure that the trees maybe are visual in the aerial, but they're not part of the surface model. So again, it just makes sure you clean the data up before you get in there.
All right. Well, this is more of a comment than a question, but one of our participants here was just telling us that our customer service and the response time is phenomenal. And that is something we pride ourselves on here. So, like David was saying, we really do pride ourselves on helping you to be successful with the software. And I'm glad that one of our participants in the forum today recognized that.
So I think we're on about near the end of our time. You can keep asking questions, or we can just end this for today. But again, I want to make sure that even if we end it, contact me, david.settlemyer@bentley.com. I love questions. I love interacting with the users or potential users. So again, reach out to me, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions, walk through scenarios, show you the software in more detail. Again, we're here to serve the user base of Bentley and to make everyone happy.
All right, got one last question here for you, David. Are you able to use LiDAR for topographic information yet?
Again, just as before, LiDAR is something that needs to be processed. It needs to be taken care of in a different software. There are tons of softwares for that. We only accept right now. We accept information that has already been taken care of. For example, you would use the LiDAR information, make the topography, because something has to clean that data up. It just doesn't magically create a topography for us. So something needs to clean, some other software needs to clean it up. But once you've got that surface, you've got the contours, SITEOPS will easily accept that information to be used as part of your design. All right, I think that's the last question. So I do want to thank everyone, and it's been an absolute pleasure.